Should we, some say that spirituality means one must follow an authority, and others feel that spirituality should be rather the opposite. It should come from within and should be completely free and is actually the individual's connection with the Supreme. I think it depends where we begin. When we begin our spiritual life, we are not ready to connect with God. And the reason is because we have become distracted. Our focus and our attention has become completely absorbed with matter, not only in interest, but in terms of attachment, in terms of deep relationships that have become very deep-rooted with material things. And that takes us away from realization of the divine. Therefore, all religions or traditions or all techniques in the world that have been introduced are aiming to bring about an alteration of consciousness. Whether you go through the religious traditions, whether you go through psychology, and whether you go through the primordial scream, whether you go through alpha waves, whatever techniques have been introduced, they all have the same objective, to bring about an alteration of consciousness so that one can become a better receptacle of the divine reality. Even like Rimbaud used to take various drugs, you know, like already like in a few hundred years ago in France, with the aim of having a religious experience, very similar to Aldous Huxley's book with the LSD experience, The Doors of Perception. So that's the point, that yes, when one has come to a point of becoming a suitable receptacle, then one's relationship with God becomes free and individual. It becomes direct, without any interference of external, of a tradition or a book, or it just becomes simply the internal experience, free. But before one comes to that freedom, one has to go through a process of freeing himself. Just like psychologically, we know that we are blocked in many ways from our full potential due to traumas, due to various conditionings that have come about in our social interaction and so on. And people, in some cases it takes a clinical level and needs treatment, and in other people it's socially functional and just considered as character. But the fact of the matter is that people are blocked. We also know IQ, EQ, right? And we see that when the EQ is more developed, that people are performing at a much higher performance level. So this is the key to the question. It's not, should there be a discipline under an authority, or should spiritual life be free? In the beginning, it must be under an authority, and it must be in a discipline, and that discipline must have roots in scriptures and so on. Then we can gradually alter our consciousness so that we can approach the Supreme Lord. Teresa de Avila, in her book The Interior Mansion, is describing a mansion with many rooms, and within each room she's gradually undergoing a purification and a transformation until she comes in the final rooms to the point of union with God. The same we may find in yoga practices, where first a discipline of sense control and mind control, and then finally realization will come. The same we find in the chanting of Hare Krishna. First we're chanting Hare Krishna as a practice, and by practicing gradually, the consciousness shifts from material focus to spiritual focus. Gradually the quality of the spiritual focus increases, and ultimately one can chant the name of God in pure love. At that stage, full freedom has been attained, and there is nothing that interferes any longer in that, no external interference in that relationship with the Supreme Lord. Then one's not dependent on some injunctions of how to approach God. But in the conditioned state, yes, very much so. We need authority. Therefore, one requires to hear from a guru. One requires to hear from a teacher. If you want to be a doctor, you have to learn from an expert doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a cook, and we don't send you in the kitchen, I just want to be free, you know. No. Here's a good cook, you learn from this good cook, and you do exactly what he does. Then you'll also become a good cook. Then you can be free. Then you can become creative. So the beginning requires discipline. And that in any field, it's not any different in the spiritual field.